Galen? Galen! Arknight! Huh. Well, partner, doesn't look like it's here, so I reckon I found me some musical nuggets right there.
Well, hot darn diggity dog, you're right. These songs are better than fighting goat in them old hills.
Ooh, doggy, ain't that the truth? I stand by this song like I stand by my old bottle shiner.
Dude.
I swear, this bit's got more kick than a mule with a burr on the saddle.
Dude.
Last time I heard song, this sweet Kanai Joe was still in town.
Dude.
What?
That's maybe a bit too much.
Oh. Well, we gotta keep the spirit, and this time, that means grabbing your best Stetson and getting ready for some of them Western Cowboy songs on this episode of Music Arcade. Yee-haw! Now, before we begin the episode proper, I'd like to mention a couple of things. First, the obvious. Galen isn't here, he's recovering from sickness, and podcast levels of speaking would be a bit of an issue. He'll be back likely for next episode. Now for something a bit different. Before we switched topics around to accommodate the fact we're missing a host, our plan was to use memories as the theme for the episode. Now, that theme was decided before even last episode was recorded. A bit of a simple pick on a whim at the time, and it took a whole different meaning between that time and now, since between those two moments a dear friend of mine unfortunately passed away. Now, we're still going to do that Memories episode, but with the April Fool's episode being a bit of a tradition, it means it's going to be at least a month before we record that one, so while it's less of a natural fit to mention that now, I still wanted to remember in here too this friend with whom I on occasion shared some video game music tastes, in particular while he was recently on this huge electro swing kick. I remember in particular his taste for the dramatic and the grandiose in music, big orchestral song with Latin chanting, from Castlevania tracks to the Ultimate Weapons theme in FF14 more recently. And while the possibility to post a song and tag him whenever I hear something that would fit is now futile, I will have a thought every time one such piece comes to my ears, as will I for another friend lost earlier this year, whenever I hear old French anime openings. The connection we form with music are personal and diverse, as is the case with art at large, meaning these connections, whether these connections bring joy, annoyance, comfort, or a more bittersweet feeling, that might change, but that will endure even the passing of loved ones. So will we. Alex, Fabrice, this one's for you. Welcome to Music Arcade. I'm your 6-shot carrying, horse-riding, 10-gallon hat-wearing host Radical. Yee-haw!
And I'm Eddie, and I'll let you know that my grandpappy found literally zero gold in them hills. He wasn't a digger.
Yeah, because Galen isn't here for this episode, we basically talked about that, mentioned some other possibilities of themes before we realized this would be very funny to have the most American kind of theme without our American hosts.
Yeah, sometimes we think deeply about our themes. Sometimes we leave it to chance. Sometimes
most of the time we think, funny.
Most of the time we do think that. Sometimes we go beyond and go, actually, you know what?
Yeah. I mean, that's most times, honestly. Like, when you start with researching a topic, it just start revealing some hidden strength.
Yeah, the funny part is that I think we landed on this theme because I was talking about something entirely unrelated, which was an old Destiny 2 dungeon.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, sadly, Destiny doesn't really have cowboy tracks, but we do have cowboy tracks from other games.
That we do. So how about we begin with the first game that came to my mind when we talked about combat games, and just setting a bit one notable absence right away. The fact that both of us, well, the fact neither of us went to Red Dead Redemption with that theme says a lot about the kind of tracks we tend to like and search for.
I think it also says a lot about our opinion of the Game Awards.
I mean, I didn't even have that one in mind, but it will come up as a subject, the Red Dead series, not the Game Awards, when talking about one of your tracks, actually. So look forward to that.
But I wouldn't expect anything less if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Excellent. But when I think of Western tracks, I thought, well, there was a bit of a path. First, I thought of that one Western era train level in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Times. Then this let me think, wait a minute, wasn't there a cowboy themed kind of beat 'em up outright? And it wasn't really a beat 'em up, it was more of a shoot and of a run and shoot. And it was Sunset Riders, which is great. But then I thought another game from a similar era with a different perspective. And this is the one that stuck, which is Wild Guns, namely the Reload version they released for the Wii, I believe.
If I had a nickel for each SNES era cowboy themed run and gun game, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't too much, but it's weird that happened twice.
Yeah, although to be fair, Sunset Riders released first on arcades. Wild Guns, I'm not sure, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it was SNES first. But yeah, those two are classics of that era.
Absolutely. And well, like, I never played Sunset Riders when I was younger, but I certainly did play some Wild Guns. And yeah, some of the themes got stuck to me, and the one for the armored train is no exception. Because, I mean, first, a train level was the impetus for a game of this era. And train levels are the best kind of video game levels, period. So that's a pretty natural choice, especially since you have train-on-train battle, where this huge machine comes in your line of sight when you switch to the boss phase of the level. And yeah, it's frantic, and thus the music sets up this really nice pace. It's maybe not the most archetypal Western kind of track, because it focuses more on the action. It's a very arcadey game, even if it released on the SNES. But I think, like, if I have multiple games with that vibe that are Western games, there's something to it with this match between an arcade kind of gameplay and this as a setting.
Yeah,
because shooting things are fun.
Yeah, I do note down that it was. It definitely sounds like the composer here had the pace of the game first and as a goal, and the setting second. Because
yeah, exactly.
It is very fast paced.
Yeah, and even more so, like, the rest of the game is pretty fast. This one takes it one bit of step further because you're on a moving vehicle. There's a speed that happens naturally all around you.
I can see that. Yeah, I don't think I ever actually played Wild Guns. I definitely was on the Sunset Riders crowd. So I played that one a lot.
Yeah.
This I'd say the general melody and the actual song structure goes a bit beyond Western compared to Sunset Riders. Not that either of them is very Ennio Morricone-esque to begin
Yeah,
with,
but that
but
makes complete sense given
yeah,
from the intro level you're already shooting giant mechs.
yeah, and this one also it does definitely have the sound elements within the song. Like it may not have the structure of say an Ennio Morricone soundtrack, Ennio
Yeah,
Morricone score. Sorry, but it does have those sound elements. You have the trumpets, you have the whistles, you have like everything is there.
exactly. If you could just repeat the everything is there.
Yeah, I figured. Everything is there. It's just different order, I suppose you could say. Uh,
Yeah, it's putting a faster suggestion and it's like using these elements to make their own fun, fast paced shooty thing.
and boy, do I like those trumpets. They sound
And
fun.
oh yeah, like these are from the reloaded version specifically because it's very faithful to the original melody, but the quality of everything is freed from the SNES limitation, and I think they did a lovely job with that. So credit to this too. And right, one thing that this touches on as well, which is one of my main theses after looking into those Western themes, is that Western is this very strong aesthetic where there's enough elements in it that not every element need to be there at the same time. Like, you can have something that feels Western without guns or without natives or without arid plains or horses or double saloon. Okay, no, you need your double sided saloon doors, or it's not a Western. But aside from that, you have a lot of room to work with.
You can get away with a lot. Like going back to the Destiny talk, even just for a second. Uh, one of the classes, the Hunter, is known for having a cowboy vibe, but it took the game not if you account for both Destiny 1 and 2, it took them
Yeah.
around 9 years before a cowboy hat was added to the game.
Oh.
But you could still very much feel the cowboy vibe and how the class was built. It's like
Yeah, exactly.
the
It's an
hunters,
attitude. It's
yeah,
so much stuff.
the hunters in Destiny, for those who aren't aware, they're sort of defined by this idea of being the lone explorer, the lone wanderer. So they're either a shinobi, so a solo ninja, or they're the lone gunman, like a cowboy from a western. It's always one of those tropes from fiction. So you could
Yeah, I
definitely
see.
feel that in the class, even before.
Yeah, there's a bit of modularity here, which I think makes it very desirable as a theme.
But it still makes it very fun and funny to talk about while the American from this podcast isn't around.
Absolutely. Now, as I realize live that I had another game in mind but forgot to note it, and thus realize right now that I didn't even look back into the Live Alive Cowboy stage soundtrack, I will bemoan my poor memory and invite you to take it away to your next track. In the meantime,
let's put that one into honorable mentions, I guess. But yes, let's continue our talk about very American cowboys with Meet These French
Huh.
from Age of Empires 3.
Right. Your explanation, please?
I mean, this sounds like sitting by a camp in the frontier. Like that's the vibe
It
of this
does.
song. I I imagine this plays. It must play in a cinematic or something, a cutscene. Uh, it's been, I think, over a decade since I last played the campaign for Age of Empires 3,
Yeah, of
so
course.
I'm not sure. But it definitely sounds like something you would hear in a movie score, where it's
Yeah.
just maybe one or two cowboys sitting by a camp in the frontier, only to learn something terrible, or the camera moves and shows that there is an informant for the bad guy hidden near them and hearing their plan or something. There's a bit of an ominous vibe at the tail end of this. It's a very short track.
Yeah, like the way the guitar vibrates after the notes have played, and you're left to stew in it a little, feels very dark in contrast to the lighter, comfier woodwinds.
Yeah, I imagine something like that happens in the game. It must be a cutscene thing where exactly that scenario plays out. Because I know Age of Empires 3 goes from the time of the discovery of the Americas all the way to the era of the Wild West. So
Yeah,
it must
and
have
I
something
can
like that.
imagine, and I can imagine no scenario more sinister than sitting comfy when suddenly the French.
Oh, God, not the French. Wait, the call
They're
is coming
the
from inside the
worst.
house. But yeah, it's a very short track. I don't really have much more to say. Just it's neat. It's about 40 seconds long, if that. Uh,
42.
Close.
But yeah, it's a nice little intermission, and it has this nice vibe.
It does.
Now then, to take it away with another one of my picks. When I went in the tank to look for Western style games, another one from a different era that stood out was, well, first God Hand, and we'll come back to that, but digging a bit deeper, I remembered a stream from one Dino that I watched, and on it discovered Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman, which is essentially the lost ancestor to like God Hand and also kind of Devil May Cry, all on the PS1. It's a very pretty game that has been completely under my radar and hasn't really made any direct descendants since then, but looks and plays absolutely amazing and sounds incredible. The composer, there's two of them, and they worked on like one other game, which is Cool Borders 2, and it's definitely got some levels that sound like trippy PlayStation era race and snowboarding levels, because that's a sound. And but yeah, the protagonist has as the theme song with its lyrics say, came back from his master with the heart of a gunman and the sword of a samurai. And so the track in particular that I picked is Akugyaku Mudou. There is no published soundtrack with the translated names.
Yeah, not even on VGMDB there's a listing of the translations or anything.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a very interesting one for me because the melody itself is very Western, but it's using a distorted guitar rather than a clean electric guitar sound.
Yeah, and there is no clean guitar anywhere in this soundtrack. It's all getting weirder from this point, which is why I picked this early track, because like the first couple of levels, actually the first three levels are very Western themed. You have the classic western town, then you have a train level, and then you have a minecart level. 10 out of 10, perfect game. And then he moves on to more samurai themed levels, and then it gets even weirder. But the ones at the start are the one we're looking for themes that fit the bill. And this one is, I believe, one of the first boss fights against a guy with a big club.
Huh.
I don't remember his name. I just remember that he has a big club. Yeah, it carries this dual vibe, being one of the first boss fights you hear. And it works well to have the very unusual stylings of the composers work with that dual vibe and still carry a faint sense of normalcy that will soon be more and more distant as things get weirder and weirder. This is a strange game, but it's amazing.
Yeah, there were like some strange synthy noises at the end of the track. I could definitely feel like sort of you thought it was normal up to here. Things are about to get weird.
Yeah, like it goes to a point where you are in some room that looks like it's hell, fighting your edgy rival that powers up at the behest of a mastermind on a literal flying saucer. It's that kind of game.
Sounds like a regular Thursday for me.
But yeah, I wanted to bring that up, namely because the aesthetics of that and God Hand really stuck in my mind, and God Hand's first level in particular has this extremely Western-like sound, so this deserves a shout out too, even though the track I picked for God Hand specifically is the track of the super mode, named Broncobuster, the track, not the mode. It goes for a pace that is faster than most of the non-boss tracks and help really convey that sense of being temporarily powered up, and suddenly those enemies you have to maneuver around, you just smack like you are playing fast forward. It's very satisfying, and Rizing has a similar kind of superpowered mode, except on this one, your sword also triples in size. Because why not?
It's a Japanese action game, why wouldn't it?
Exactly. Now you get it.
The God Hand track, I'd say, kind of sounds like it's... I can get the Western vibe, but it kind of sounds more like it's somewhere between that and surfer rock in a way.
Yeah, I can definitely hear the surfer rock vibe, which makes sense given that the character has this very, hey, I'm a cool guy kind of vibe.
Oh God, it does come from that era
trying
of
to
gaming.
underline his style, yes.
Lord.
He gets to regret it every other cutscene. It's amazing. Like, Clover's catalog as a whole is great. God Hand remains my favorite. I put God Hand above Okami, and I love Okami as well. So, we've been found some good things on the Kamiya front, you know?
That's high praise. That's all I can say about that.
Oh yeah. Then, how about if we are high on praises, we move on to other high places? Like a Mesa, for instance.
Nice segue.
Thank you.
Yeah, it wouldn't be one of our episodes without a song that takes the theme and goes ethereal with it. So that's Horizon Zero Dawn for you, I guess. City on the Mesa.
Oh yeah.
This is another track where it definitely fits a more peaceful moment in a Western story. But in particular, the strings, I think they add a more ethereal vibe to the soundtrack. Maybe it's the mixing or something. I'm not quite sure, but it sounds more ethereal, less grounded. And if
Yeah,
you've been
it's
listening,
like
if
it's
you've
like
been
the
listening,
music of the spirit trip or something.
yeah, if you've been listening to this podcast for like 5 episodes, you know this is my jam. Like, of
Yep.
course, I would put an ethereal thing here, but this
Yep.
sounds really neat to me. It, it's not quite the usual Western aesthetic, but I can still
Which
picture.
makes sense because the West is forbidden, as the sequel establishes.
Now everything's forbidden in a way in the Horizon franchise because the machines have taken over. But I can
Yeah,
still,
but the sequel is named Forbidden
yeah,
West, not
no,
Forbidden Everything.
yeah, I got that. Don't worry. Yeah,
Laugh.
yeah. I am autistic, but I got that one. Uh, but I can still picture a cowboy to this track. It's a very specific scene of a cowboy walking through a market of a new city they've never been to. So they're exploring the market, but it's
Yeah,
still I
and
can
not
see a cowboy.
exactly a bustling city or anything like that, you know?
Yeah, it's like it's a very specific aesthetic, but one that still fits in
Yeah,
the overall idea of cowboys and western. I'd say. And again,
I can
I just
definitely accept that.
yeah
Yes.
I just love the strings here. I
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a violin and a cello driving the melody forward. I love them. Um, it kind of remind me a little bit of an album. It was made by four classical musicians, but the most famous of the four was Yo-Yo Ma. Uh, I think
Hmm.
he might be the most famous cellist in the world.
Yep, I know him.
The album is called the Goat Rodeo Sessions, and it's bluegrass made by classical musicians. If I recall
Cool.
correctly, one of them plays a fiddle, one plays a violin, Yo-Yo Ma plays a cello, and there's a dude on a acoustic bass. So
All right.
it kind of has this vibe of like it's speaking those Western aesthetics, but it's going at them through a different lens.
Yeah, exactly. It's again taking some of these elements and using them in order to make what they want to make. Not staying beholden to it as a perfect, untouchable whole.
And it turns out it makes for some solid music. Like, what can I say? I haven't
Oh,
even
yeah.
been to this part of the game yet because I've barely played it, but I love this song.
See, it's a good one. It's a good one. And I'll talk to more about some things that will apply to this one and your next one when we get to your next one, because I think it ties in very nicely to another of what I thought of hearing these Western tracks, in particular yours, and reflecting a bit on Western as an aesthetic, both musically and visually.
I can't wait to hear that.
But for now, how about we stay with some relatively quiet themes and talk about some Bastion?
6
Because
words Darren Korb can do no wrong.
exactly. But even beyond that, like, Bastion is not explicitly a Western, but it's about as close as you can get. It's certainly got the booze fueled kind of progression systems. It's got the vibes. It's got the disparate travelers sitting around a camp, except it's a very elaborate kind of camp. It's got this dark, brooding, contemplative narration that defined this game. And it's got the music. A lot of the themes feel very Western inspired. Oh yeah, and also one of your weapons is a pair of guns, so that helps too.
Yeah, I think also another thing that helps a lot is that it has that Lone Ranger vibe.
Yeah.
'Cause you are just one character exploring sort of quote unquote new world.
Yeah, or the the scattered remains of the world that you knew.
Yeah, hence the quotation marks. But it's sort of it's new to you because it's literally being put in place as you walk.
Yeah.
It has that vibe. So it's not quite like when people think cowboys and westerns, the first thing that comes to mind is specifically spaghetti westerns. It's not that
Mhm.
vibe. It's more like a western, actually, from an American perspective, I'd say.
Yeah. And like it feels like they had the dynamic of the Bastion and these last survivors, but wanted something that didn't feel post-apocalyptic or archetypically post-apocalyptic, and thus landed with their artistic research in a color theme that had Western vibes and kind of constructed elements in which there was a Western shaped hole that they just fit because why not? The rest is already looking good. This would fit in nicely. But like, it's not a driving force. It's also there, kind of. Which is not to diminish it. It's, on the contrary, I think it slots in so naturally. It's pretty seamless. But Bastion would have been Bastion without a Western aesthetic.
It also speaks a lot to not just Darren Korb's, but all of Supergiant's tendency, I suppose, to sort of play with aesthetics. Like,
Yes.
to compare it to a more their more famous game, I could say, Hades. Hades definitely drives inspiration and uses those ancient Greek aesthetics, and it is about ancient Greek myths, but it's
But it's also about family, right?
yes, and it's modernized in how it's presented as well. Like
It takes theme, but is not beholden to them.
and it plays with the theme. Like
Yeah.
you can see, for example, the three Furies in
Mhm.
in Hades, how different they are from one another, how each of them has a unique personality that feels modern, that wasn't really present in the old myths. So that's sort of what Supergiant does in a way. And
Yeah, exactly.
another
Use some
parallel,
material and kind of use what's left a bit in the shadow as an excuse to apply their own touch to it.
yeah,
Because Zagreus, nobody cares. So that's an excuse to make it their character.
it's one of those that people don't know because it just wasn't very popular in ancient times, I guess. But another interesting parallel that I found with Hades and this song in particular that you brought up, which I don't think we said
I
it's
should probably stake, it's In Case of Trouble from Bastion.
yeah, I was about to say I don't think we actually gave the track's name, but
Yes.
an interesting parallel that I, at least in my mind, I found between this and Hades, that it kind of sounds like the prototype to what um, Darren Korb would do with Hades. If you listen to the back half of this track, with how it uses synths and electric guitars, it reminds me a lot of how synths and guitars were used in Hades. So
Yeah, and we hear that kind of use at other points on the soundtrack as well. It's got in for Bastion specifically. I think the synths add a lot of the shadowed, fragmented aspect to it, where There's something harmonious on the front that gets a bit scrambled around and things aren't quite right. Something that would be played to an even larger effect in Transistor, I believe. And indeed is taken to another use because at this point he had the ball rolling and makes sense that this worked for Hades as well. He makes it works.
Darren Korb is in the Music Arcade Hall of Fame, definitely.
Yeah. And like, for the Western vibes specifically, like, the guitar in particular is what really helps. The way it sounds kind of dry, the way you hear the fingers moving on the strings, those metal strings as it's played. It's very nice acoustic and kind of, yeah, it's got this around the campfire vibe as well.
Yeah, it starts off with a really strong Western vibe for me. When the beat hits, it feels more modern and a bit farther from that aesthetic. Not too far, but it is a bit removed.
Yeah, like it established it was there. Now it establishes it's also around the place, not just at the center point.
Yeah,
it's exploring because it has to.
Because that's what Supergiant Games does best. Explore themes.
Right from their first game as Supergiant. Now then, how about we move on to the next game? The very subtly named Gun.
Yeah, all caps.
Yes.
So this is basically the game that people played if they wanted Red Dead Revolver but couldn't afford PlayStation 3.
Harsh.
It's true.
Not entirely unfair, but harsh.
I love this game, but it's true.
I'm sure.
Like,
yeah.
I played the hell out of Gun on the PS2. But yeah, this we were talking about how some of the songs don't really have a spaghetti western vibe. This entire game does. It was a matter of choosing which track to bring to our conversation. I went with Colt's Training because I guess my theme today is calm, campfire-y songs.
Yeah, but this one in particular stood out to me. But go ahead with your kind of statement on it first.
So, when I hear this song, like, it's another game that's been over a decade since I last played it, so I don't remember where it plays. But it sounds less like a training song, like the title says, and more like a peaceful day at a homestead in the frontier.
Yeah, or if it's training, it's like survival outdoorsman training, not shooting training.
Yeah, more like endurance in the frontier or something, like enduring the seasons.
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, it's just to add to the streak, it's another song where I love the strings so much.
Oh, the strings are so good. And okay, so here's the vibe I collected with this track and a bit of the previous one. Like, these tracks have got elements of what would eventually become country music. And it's named like that because I think these kind of vibes are more than like your Little House on the Prairies and the like, how you show up a pastoral feeling in an American setting. If you want a game set in the Americas where you want to show off the vast wilderness and the beauty of nature, I don't think there's a better genre than Western to do that. And thus these campfire songs, as we call them, help set up moments of contemplation on the nature around you and kind of carry this subtle messaging without even needing to try, because it's kind of tied to these aesthetics, to have a bit of reverence for the land that's out there.
I think that the comparison is to country music is I would say deliberate from the composition standpoint, because that is sort of the origins of country.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, country is mostly from the south of the US, but Western movies and cowboys are a trope that it's mostly Texas. So
it applies to different areas, but the southern border of the Americas is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Well, the southern border of the USA, at whichever state of formation it might be.
Yeah, because I also am a South American. Gosh darn it. Just from the South American continent.
And to be fair, in modern days, I believe there are more cowboy-like activities happening in Brazil than in the actual United States of America. Except this one is more corporate-driven and mercenary private military companies pushed. Fun times.
Oh boy. Help me.
There. Listen to Colt's training track and relax. It's all okay.
Those are some crazy words. Listen to this training track and relax. Like, that tells you...
I know, right?
That tells you a lot about how they might have fumbled the vibe or they fumbled the title.
Relaxation is a skill, though.
I don't think Zen training is part of a cowboy's life.
How else are you going to be that dead-eye shot that can slow down time enough to line up your shots?
Okay, you know what? Fair. You have to be Zen to be the first one to shoot in a duel, I guess. But
I guess so.
Speaking of duels...
I guess I'm not sure, honestly. Like, the transition between Colt's training and a game named Colt Canyon felt like it had an easier route, you know?
You raise a fair point, but this is definitely a dual theme.
Yes, although I cannot confirm that per se, because here's how I landed on this track. I got into a research stage when we established what was the theme, and I looked at my Steam game list in order to have some inspiration and avoid missing some obvious track. Even though I definitely did that, I'm still mad about Live Alive. But I saw a lot of games. You know how Steam game lists go. You often have a lot of games you absolutely don't remember when they got here. And Colt Canyon was one of such game, but with a name like that, I didn't even need to see the Steam page to know it would fit the theme. And indeed, it does. It has this minimalist pixel look. It's from top down, and I guess you shoot a lot of people. It seems tense, but I haven't played it myself.
We are gonna talk a little bit more about games whose titles scream Western in a bit, but this definitely even the title of the song in a way kind of tells you what's going on. I think it's a Bullet Blues First Symphony. I have no idea where the first symphony comes from, but Bullet Blues, it tells you.
My understanding is that there's other symphonies that are also called Bullet Blues for, I presume, the fight themes of different levels.
That would make sense.
Yeah. but like the most accurate information I have in my research is that the composer, which has a very Italian sounding name, Luigi-Maria Rapisarda, is actually German, which is the most spaghetti western thing you could have.
I was gonna say that name sounds somewhere in between Spanish and Italian, but German, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. But honestly, the rest of the soundtrack and this track as well are very enjoyable. When I thought this deserved a mention in particular because, I mean, it fit the theme very well to just look around what you have and go on pure vibes alone. And the vibes here are excellent. A lot of the tracks are very ambient. I think you'd like that soundtrack as a whole a lot. It seems very much your vibe, which is another reason why I put it there, mainly to recommend it to you, Eddie, specifically.
I'm listening. I'm checking that out later.
Excellent. But yeah, even when things obviously escalate, you still have a very slow pace, which I assume helps keep with the pace of the game itself. But despite its relative slowness, it's still very heavy. It's still very stomp all around. And it really helps make things tense. Like I said, I haven't played the game, but with a battle music this tense, I imagine it's the kind of game where you die in one shot.
I can see that. I haven't played it either, so I have no idea. I've seen some screenshots. Based on what I've seen, I'd say also at least as far as this song goes, the music, it definitely threads that line in between fitting the Western vibe and fitting the game's specific aesthetic, like its style of pixel art.
Yeah.
It's a very neat song. I'd say this one in particular is a bit too repetitive for me to listen on my own time. It has like there's plenty of creativity at play here and has some solid energy that I would imagine fits really well in a combat scenario. It is a bit too repetitive for me to listen outside of this context and the context of the game, though.
Yeah. One thing I will also say for this track is that I'm glad it has one specific instrument in it that feels very tied to the country western kind of vibe. And I know the name of the instrument in French, it's called a guimbarde there, but and you can use some variation of the word guimbarde as one of the names for the instrument, but I just looked it up, which is why I typed that a little bit. Sorry for that, Galen, editing. But I looked it up and it turns out another name of this instrument is, I'll just pick the mouth harp for the list of names on the Wikipedia article, because the main name, it's Galen's word, not mine.
Yeah, I just found it. Yeah, that's
I know, right? Yep.
It's definitely something you hear a lot in spaghetti westerns, I feel.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I'm very happy that this track allows to showcase that.
Yes.
Now then.
Funny thing about the mouth harp, the Wikipedia article says, despite its colloquial name, which we won't be saying here, it most likely originates in Siberia.
Yep.
That's...
Honestly, I'd watch a Siberian Western.
I'm sure there must be one.
Oh, surely. But yeah, on that note, late entry to the episode. How about we go to Hicksville, population U.
Yeah, so a little peek behind the curtains. I was a bit low on songs compared to Red on this one because my week's been a hurry. It's been pure rush. So at last minute I thought no, I need at least one more song, especially when the Age of Empires 3 song is so short. And then I realized we didn't have Gun.Smoke on our playlist. Gun.Smoke or Gun.Smoke, however you want to call it, being a sort of the prototypical Western video game from way back in the NES era. I don't remember whether it was originally on the NES or first came to arcades and then home consoles.
From what I've seen, it came first in arcade.
That would make sense. It's from that time where a lot of games would be developed in Japan for arcades and then released in like 5 different home consoles.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a specific version of the soundtrack. I could find the actual soundtrack to the NES version, but I went with a cover.
Honestly, the version you put there is great.
Yeah, I went with a cover by a musician called Justin Woods of the Hicksville theme, which that sure is a name for a town.
Sure is.
Especially in a Western. But yeah, the actual cover, as far as I could tell, comparing it to the original song, the melody is unchanged. He just plays an acoustic guitar in the back alongside the melody.
Yeah.
While playing the melody in an electric guitar, and the melody itself is already clearly very westerny, and then this dude plays like he's a cowboy. Like,
yeah, like honestly, the tukudun 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 sounds like the hooves of a horse.
It sounds like the opening title theme for a western or something. Like I almost expect some sound effects of gun shooting at the end as the title appears on screen or something.
Yeah.
It definitely carries this one definitely carries the Ennio Morricone aesthetic. I wouldn't say it quite grabs the level of quality of Ennio Morricone's soundtracks, but it is that aesthetic and it goes hard.
I mean, you do what you can with that kind of a sound limitation for the bass melody.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, this is just a fun song and an even more fun cover. Like, it's great.
Oh yeah.
And I want to be clear. I wasn't aware of the existence of this cover until an hour ago.
Honestly, that's part of what makes these searches so great.
Yeah, like I knew the game existed and I was sure Gun.Smoke must have something in there. But then I found this and man, I'm in love with the song. And apparently
An excellent find.
yeah, definitely. And apparently the guy even has an entire album of Western covers of video game music. It's called The Devil's Arcade. So if you want to check that out,
Excellent title.
shout out.
And very fitting for us.
Oh yeah. Almost makes me want to name this episode that, but it wouldn't be 100% clear what we would be talking about.
Searchability is important.
Also, not getting demonetized by YouTube is important, even though we are not monetized at all right now. But for the future,
Better not tempt some kind of evil entity.
Also known as the YouTube algorithm.
The YouTube algorithm's arcade. That's the one.
Oh boy. Do not
Anything
make
else on Hicksville?
Not on Hicksville, just I was just gonna say, don't make deals with the YouTube algorithm unless you know what you're doing.
How did it came to Georgia once? Okay, that's enough, that's enough.
Oh boy.
So, for the final pick, something that really embodies and englobes the Western aesthetic the most is the main theme from Desperados 3. The story of this game's creation, I can't mention a track from this game without mentioning it. Basically, my understanding is there were a group of fans of games like the first Desperados and Commandos, these top-down puzzle games kind of video games that had their time in the sun and then faded away, and they asked themselves, why did they stop making these games? Did people really started not buying them? What happened? And turns out the answer, after they did what most indie producers don't do and did some actual market research, turned out the answer was, no, there wasn't really any particular reason. It's just the one company that made these games kinda stopped. And so they decided, cool, let's make our own. And so they really Shadow Tactics, and it was excellent. And so they acquired the notoriety to acquire the license and to release an actual sequel to Desperados, which was Desperados 3, which was excellent as well. Still this top-down, very tactical puzzle shooter with a lot of modern quality of life that helps do what most revival of old genres do if they want to be successful, which is to give you the vibe and the feel of the old game without some of the uncertainties of user experience. And the result was a truly excellent game and one of the clearest cowboy vibes game, where you go through a variety of settings with your ragtag bunch of no-gooders, no-good doers? Ne'er-do-wells. Yes, that's the one I was. That's the one I was thinking of, because do-gooders don't have a direct inverse, but vice versa. So, with your ragtag band of ne'er-do-wells, and it feels like a classic because it was designed after a classic with a classic mindset.
It's a bit of a shame the studio isn't around anymore, really.
Although I'm kind of glad they went on their own terms, from what I understand. It's just, okay, we got these in the tanks, we're done now, and it's them disbanding instead of, say, selling out and then kind of slowly decaying into irrelevance. I do hope, however, that at least some of the members of the team are contributing to work on the more recently announced Commandos revival.
Yeah, I've heard about that one. It actually took me a while to realize it was a different studio. Here's hoping that one goes well. But the Desperados 3, I haven't actually played the third one. I played Desperados 2, but as soon as I heard the first chord of this song, the main theme for the third game, I instantly thought of Desperados 2. It is,
of course,
very strong in its aesthetic. And,
like it's other tracks we've covered in this episode can be a bit more around the way, or a bit like, it's not the 100% full mold. It's like 60% of the elements here and a little bit there, and it's elements of Western. This one, it's the whole package. It's the Western westerning its way into your Western face.
Even when it uses a little bit of synths, I think around halfway into the song, they just mix seamlessly into the general vibe.
Yeah. It just does a really good job at making a central statement, and that statement is Westerns, am I right? And honestly, good for them.
It does a great job at that, and also does a great job at building sort of gravitas a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially when you have the drums playing, and then on top of them, there's harmonizing guitars. Like, works really, really well.
You can kind of feel the prelude to a mission where not everyone is going to come back alive. The big score, if you will.
Especially not if you play like me, because I suck at these games, even though I love them.
The retry button has been used a lot.
Yep.
Like, one of the things they kept from the original is how easy it is to quick save and quick load. And you need it.
Yeah, I haven't played this game in particular, but I have played Shadow Tactics, and oh boy, the retry button.
Oh yeah. But when things click the right way, it's so good. Also for this one, there is a train level, but the train isn't moving, so points for originality.
Admittedly, it would probably be really hard to do a stage in the style of this game where the train does move.
But it would be interesting, now that I think of it. Especially if you have an inside-outside kind of vibe, but let's not design Desperados 4 just yet.
Yeah, it's a great game with a really, really fun soundtrack.
Yeah.
If you want Western vibes, you kind of can't go wrong with Desperados.
Exactly, and turns out, if you design your puzzle game very well, like they did, the answer to every puzzle isn't necessarily Gun. Though it is the answer to some of these puzzles. And with that, how about we go to some of the themes for games we've been playing recently? Music Arcade now playing.
So,
I'll let you start.
Yeah, so it's been a while, couple weeks since the last time I was on the podcast, and my job's ramping up really fast right now, so not that many games.
You have my sympathies.
But I do bring 3 as my offering, let's say. Of course, Destiny.
Of course.
Last time I was on the podcast, I did note that I came back to the game right at the end of an episode or season. So, of course, I would stick around for the next one.
Of course.
We're now in episode Heresy. And I don't think there's original music made for this episode. I think it's mostly using soundscapes and songs from the Taken King expansion of the original Destiny. Because the episode is set on the same place, that place being the haunted isn't the right word, but it's the closest I can get without spending an hour explaining lore. So let's say haunted ship of an eldritch god.
So a classic haunting of digital future cyber eldritch ghosts.
Oh, it's very much organic. It's very... The ship itself is organic. It's made out of a worm. A giant worm. So yeah, in Destiny 1, it was a whole expansion dedicated to this area, plus a raid. In Destiny 2, they reprised the raid as they've done a few times with older raids, bring them back to Destiny 2 standards. And now we have an episode or season, if you want to call it, that's based on that same space, that same ship,
Neat.
which is now in decay and has been taken over by a new power that turns out to be the memory of the guy we killed on the raid.
Well, I'm happy we finally have the answer to would you still play Destiny if it was a worm?
That's an interesting question there. Especially
a reference, don't worry about it.
It's funny because worm gods are very relevant in the lore of Destiny. But yeah, it's a
you
fun.
didn't say.
Yeah. Well, it's a really fun episode so far.
Neat.
As of the time of this recording, it's Act 2 of 3. It's been really fun, and the story's been really interesting. Which it is a welcome sight, let's say, welcome experience, considering the previous 2 episodes were kind of bland. This one is very interesting, but I don't think it has any new music. Then I've also been playing Age of Mythology with the new expansion, Immortal Pillars. It's Chinese themed. It has a new theme song, which is basically the original Age of Mythology theme song, but with Chinese folk instrumentation.
Of course, checks out.
I can't find a soundtrack online, so I'm not sure there's more than that. I'm not sure there's a soundtrack to this. But it's a really good expansion. The way this came about is basically that when Age of Mythology was first released on Steam as Age of Mythology HD edition, extended edition, sorry, they eventually added a Chinese DLC. I don't really remember the name. No one likes that DLC because it was rather low effort. Like, it was at a time where StarCraft 2 was the big RTS and no other RTS had any chance. So they kind of just copied some mechanics from Age of Empires 3, and the Chinese in that expansion worked basically like how Asian civilizations work in Age of Empires 3 and call it a day. This expansion is very much unique, and there's a lot of work's been put into it. You can definitely feel that.
Good.
You can also, incidentally, as part of the mythical units you can summon the 4 auspicious beasts, as they call them, which are the 4 divine beasts that have inspired the August Celestials in Warcraft and the animal attacks of Maria Renard in Castlevania.
Of course. And many more references.
Yeah, those 4
go
around.
The 4 lords, if you will.
They also have, it's 4 corners of trouble or something. I don't remember the name.
4 heavenly pillars as well.
Yeah, the heavenly pillars play into the storyline of the storyline of the story missions, of course.
Yeah.
But they also have the sort of the opposite to the auspicious beasts, which are for sort of demonic looking things, which are surprisingly terrifying looking. Didn't expect that one.
Neat.
But yeah, really cool expansion. Shout outs to the dev team on that one. And I've played a little bit of Avowed because it's on the Game Pass. Bit too expensive for me to purchase, but it's on the Game Pass, so I could try it out. It's I think it's fun, but it's a bit unfocused.
So I heard.
Yeah, the presentation comes off very strong in like how similar to Skyrim.
It has an art style.
Not just that, but like what I mean is like when you get into the game, it feels very Skyrim, the way it plays and such at first.
Yeah.
But the game itself, overall, is kind of closer to a Dragon Age or Mass Effect style RPG, except it's in first person. It's just that it visually it leans way too close to Skyrim, so you kind of expect some things that aren't in the game. Like we've been talking with Rai. I've been talking as a member of our community. Like you expect sort of a fairly decent physics engine and to be able to interact with every NPC in a sort of Skyrim-esque game. And since the game presents itself very similar to Skyrim at first, you expect that, and then you get disappointed when that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it seems like if nothing else, it has an odd way to set up expectations.
Yeah, it's
probably something it owes to its trouble development, where I think it started as a completely different genre or something.
It was meant to be a live service game.
There we go.
Yeah, at least it dodged the fate of being live service. But yeah, I have fun with it. I enjoy it for what it is. But
how's the music?
The music, I'd say it's somewhere in between Skyrim and Divinity Original Sin 2.
Amazing. I would hate it then.
Maybe. I don't know. It's sort of, it has some ambient-ish vibes that you get from the Elder Scrolls franchise, but it also is very, very folky, like the soundtracks by Boris Slavov for Divinity Original Sin 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. I appreciate it, but I don't really remember any track, to be honest. It's
sounds like I'd hate it.
It fits the aesthetic and the vibes, but I wouldn't listen to it on my free time personally.
And me neither, because I'd hate it. Or maybe not, I haven't listened to it, I might be wrong. But
it would be very ironic.
Signs, you know?
It would be rather ironic if the game whose soundtrack I describe as somewhere between Skyrim and Divinity isn't for me, but is for you.
Yes, that would be very strange.
And funny. But yeah, that's
no, on my hand. Well, on my hand, I played. First, let's start with a little bit of Night in Tight Spaces, the sequel to Fight in Tight Spaces, which is this very small tactical roguelike. This time it's a different setting, and also you can form a whole team. And the music might be one of my favorite soundtracks of the year already. It's amazing. Like it's the same composer as the previous Fight in Tight Spaces, which was already very good. And it's just some very strong tracks with classical elements that move into some very strong beats. Like, the only fault of the soundtrack, in my opinion, is that it maybe lacks a bit of diversity from track to track due to the fact it's kind of a focused setting and a focused pace of play. But compositionally, it's something I absolutely adore.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the franchise, but I've heard good things.
Yeah. And, I mean, a franchise, it's 2 games for now. And mainly based on puns.
Still counts for me, especially because of the puns.
Also, in the playlist listing, it's listed as Combat 1, but composer has a Bandcamp and the track has a name, which is Armored Blow. With a U, because we're using the British writing style, I suppose.
Of course, we're talking about knights.
Dear. Then, to move on from knights to pirates, I played some Like a Dragon Pirates Yakuza in Hawaii, which is a mouthful, but which so far has been a very enjoyable time. Very open, very fun. It's like got the whole Honolulu map again, but with different activities in it. And the battle style is fun. And it's got a karaoke track that include a metal song about midnight cravings called Midnight Desire. Yeah, specifically the food cravings, but sung in a way that makes it sound more ominous than it is.
Sounds
It's
like
a fun
it should
time.
be a Death Clock song.
Yeah, pretty much. It's very much got that Death Clock vibe, with a bit of a lighter instrumentation.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Then we have Monster Hunter Wilds, which is absolutely the game I've played the most. I have 72 hours on it. And it's given me a lot of fun already, just going through it, working monster, sword and shield main this time. I play a different weapon every game or extension, and it is a bit on the easy side compared to the other Monster Hunters, but it's been fun, and I can run it correctly, so I'm happy about that. Did get some graphic and glitches, but overall it's still run and it was playable, and I've played including multiplayer with people from Galen server and other places as well, and had a lot of fun with that. I will say one of the weakest aspects, especially coming from Rise, is the music. It's got a couple of themes that are kind of noticeable, but overall it's relatively unremarkable. Unfortunate. Yeah. Rise was such a strong point, and some of the previous games have definitely some more standout track. Well, for this one, some of the most standout track are like one of the best monster fight theme, which isn't the one I listed. This one is for Arkvel, the poster boy for this game, but one of the other notable themes that, like most of the battle themes against monsters, is the area battle theme. Some monsters are extra special and have their own themes. For now, it's the apex of each region, the poster for this game, the final boss, and Gormagala, which is a kind of big deal that makes other monsters turn crazy, and it has its own theme, which is one of the best in the game because it's a theme that already existed since like Monster Hunter 3 or something. Maybe 2? Maybe 2. I'm not sure. I only started at 3. Then you might think, looking at the listing and seeing I put Ace Attorney song, but I played some Ace Attorney. I didn't. What I did was I got Street Fighter 6 at last, and they have a current battle pass that includes Ace Attorney tracks and cosmetic elements. And so I've been enjoying that theme because of that. While punching people, or more kicking and grappling people. I've mostly played Manon. Finally, the last two tracks I put in the now playing section are for games I haven't actually played. Well, one I have played, but it's not there because I played it. First one that's there because of a stream, because again, I watched some Dino, which is the streamer that plays a lot of hidden gems and games you might have absolutely never heard of, and one of these is Egg. For the PlayStation, which is a PlayStation 1 era physics-based egg-powered city builder competitive multiplayer game.
What the hell did I just hear?
And this remark is also what applies to most of the soundtrack. It feels like a noise album that had a game stapled to it. Very fun. And finally, another activity I do these days and have for a couple of years now is I follow Hololive corporate VTubers that do a lot of events, including more recently the big yearly concert, and characters, VTubers that have been in the company for enough time to have established themselves and get a full 3D animated model, tend to put out yearly concert events on the anniversary, the official anniversary anyway. And most recently, we had Iris, which had one, and which also served as a promotion for an EP that's very Eurobeat focused. Pretty fun, including a track in collaboration with the man who did the opening from Initial D, so pretty big deal on the Eurobeat section. But the concert started with an animation in complete silence that ends with the model going to like a jukebox and pressing a button, and you just have real emotion, the first "what can I do for you" popping out like a jump scare. And I had to pause because I was laughing. And then the song followed, and it was a nice interpretation, but using real emotion as a kind of jump scare like that is 10 out of 10, no notes, perfectly my vibes, I love it. And that's it for the Novlane section.
I am entirely out of context for the tubing world, but that sounds like a wild time.
It's fun. I like when they're having fun like that. And we had fun recording this episode. And you can check the playlist that's in the episode description to have the accompanying music tracks to have a better idea of what we're talking about. You can send a mail at music.arcade.podcast@gmail.com, and you can look forward to more of that when we return in a couple of weeks for a perfectly normal episode. Just don't look at the calendar and how close we are to the 1st of April. Don't worry about it. It will be fine. It will be fine.
Everything will be normal.
Exactly. See you everyone and take care. Music Arcade signing off.